Hello, everybody. Welcome to GM Sports Report, your weekly podcast on all things sports, where every play counts. I'm Grant, and I'm here with my co host Mason as we get ready to cover the latest news, headlines, and upcoming events going on in the sports world. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to see all things GM Sports Report. Mason, how are you doing today?
Doing good, Grant. Definitely a lot to go over.
Yeah, we got a lot to go over. Obviously, last week we both were pretty busy, so we weren't able to get an episode out. So, looking forward to get back into it. And like you said, a lot of topics to go over, and we'll start with our hot takes of the week. So, Mason, what is your hot take for this week?
My hot take is that if Team USA does not advance, it will be one of the most embarrassing things to happen at a national level for sporting events for the USA. I think it's just we really I think took the coaching part for granted once we saw this roster, and it's like, okay, anyone coaching or managing this roster can make it to Miami for the championship game, which has apparently not been the case because now we're hoping for a couple things to happen in the Mexico Italy game for us to just make it into elimination round. So I think it's been very embarrassing already, but even more so if we don't even make it to the next round.
Yeah, I 100% agree. This team is way too talented to have to be waiting on either Italy to win or Mexico to win by 6 runs. That just should not happen with a roster of this talent. This team uh, should have, clinched the quarterfinal spot last night in that game, and they didn't. And, we obviously all saw the Mark DeRosa comments before the game where he said that he already thought that they had made the quarterfinals. But after the game, he was saying that he just misspoke there. I personally think that he's lying in that situation. I think he did genuinely think that he made the quarterfinals, like we were talking about the second you see Kershaw, warming up in the bullpen. Because he literally said before the tournament, if Kershaw's pitching, it's a break glass if it's an emergency kind of situation. So, yeah, I feel like that if USA misses out on the quarterfinals and the finals, then that's going to be a lot to talk about. So,
Mhm.
I like that hot take. And for my hot take, I'm also going something WBC related. Um, I'm going with the Cal Raleigh situation and Randy Arozarena. I do think that it's weird behavior on Cal Riley's side to not shake hands with Randy before the game. I know a lot of people are taking Cal Raleig's side in this, saying that, oh, it's just competitiveness or whatever. And, I love competitiveness. I love a competitive fire in a player. I love when someone gets fired up during a game. I'm all for it. But I feel like there's a difference between being competitive and like trying to show up one of your teammates by not shaking his hand before a game. And I will say this: I don't think it's the end of the world like everyone is acted like around social media right now. I do think that this is a simple 2-minute conversation between the two of them can fix this in the locker room. But my whole thing is like if you're Cal Raleigh, you know that this is going to get headlines. Like people are going to film this moment. Why would you want to bring that into the Seattle Mariners locker room going into opening day when you guys were one game away from making the World Series a year ago? I don't know. I just feel like it's unnecessary drama to add to headlines. And personally, if I don't know about you, but if I saw like PCA, because I'm a Cubs fan, if I saw PCA in Japan, going against each other and he didn't shake, say, a Suzuki's hand before the game, I kind of, be a little upset about that because I like to think that they're, you know, friends and teammates. And, I get that Cal Rayleigh's playing for USA and Randy's playing for Mexico, but they're also teammates for 8 out of 12 months of the year. So that's kind of just where I stay with that. I don't think it's the end of the world, but I do think that it was just a little weird on Cal Rayleigh's end to not shake hands with Randy before the game.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I completely understand the intent that it's. He mentioned that the guys that are wearing the same jersey in the USA on their chest is who he calls his teammates right now, which I get. But like you mentioned, 8 out of 12 months, that's your guy. Um, it's definitely one of those things that the media is just gonna take and run with. Like you mentioned, it's not the end of the world, but it does leave a sour taste in not just their mouths, but the fans' mouths as well. So yeah, I don't think it'll be too big of a deal, but it's definitely something to look at.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see what comes out of that. Keep an eye on the Mariners once the season starts, I guess. But I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I just think it
Mm-mm.
was kind of just a weird situation. All right, now we'll go ahead and slide over to our underdog of the week. So Mason, who is your underdog for this week?
My underdog of the week is Cam Payne with 32 points last night against Memphis, 8 3-points made. Yeah, just shout out to Cam Payne. I haven't heard his name in a while. Good to see him doing well. Former Nick. Yeah, underdog.
Yeah, honestly, did not know that he was still in the league, so that was news to me.
Yep.
Um, for my underdog of the week, I'm going with the guy that's been an underdog his whole career, someone that's had to put up with a lot being the captain of this team for the last few seasons with a lot of drama going on around this team, and that is Bam Adebayo. Last night, scoring the second highest amount of points in NBA history with an 83-point game. And look, I'm already seeing all types of negative comments about this performance. Yes, he did shoot 43 free throws, but if you watch the film, he was genuinely getting fouled. It wasn't like he was foul baiting. He was getting triple teamed and driving to the basket and just getting hacked. So obviously he's going to shoot free throws there. And yes, it wasn't as pretty as Kobe's 81-point game. No one is saying that. But why can't things just coexist in today's sports world? I feel like it's just the trend now to bash and hate on anything that happens in sports. I'm a victim of it too. And I will say, when a team I don't like does something, I do find myself hating on it. So I feel like it's something we can all work on, because not many times in our lives are we going to see 80-point performances. We're not going to see people pass that Kobe record too much. Like, just enjoy the moment. This was such a cool moment in sports last night, seeing a player score 83 points. And yes, he shot a lot of free throws. Yes, he shot below 50% from the field. But if you were watching the game and you saw what he looked like when they were guarding him one-on-one, the dude had 31 points in the first quarter. And that was just straight up basketball. He was just straight buckets. I think he had 5 threes in that first quarter. If you watch the highlights of that game, he really was cooking. And all of those fouls and free throws that he was shooting, those were earned free throws. It wasn't like he was just throwing his body into people. So that's kind of what I got to say about that performance, because I don't understand the negative stigma behind it. I think it's a very great thing for basketball. And I think that that Kobe's record and Bam's record can coexist. It doesn't have to be some stupid debate. I think that if Kobe Bryant were still here, he'd be happy to see Bam, break that record obviously he's a competitive person, but I just don't get all the negativeness behind it. I think it was a great thing for basketball last night.
Yeah, absolutely. Something I saw, it was a little bit ago. Someone said that records are meant to be broken. So I
Yes.
feel like that's what Kobe's mentality would kind of be. Just, next guy up. Now see
Yeah.
who's gonna do it again. So I think he definitely would allow it to coexist.
Yeah, 100%. And it's also just so funny that Bam Adebayo is now the second highest scorer in NBA history. That is just crazy to me, as a Heat fan, a guy that's known as a defensive specialist. Just so cool to see. But I
If
was
it
so
was like
happy for him
Jokic,
last night.
you'd
Oh,
understand
I
it,
know.
but
Yeah.
like
Yeah. If you would have told me someone scored 83 points last night, Bam probably would have been pretty low on that list of guesses that I had. All right. We're going to go ahead now and slide over to the WBC. Got some things to talk about. The tournament's well underway now, and we have enough to start forming our opinions. So, Mason, who right now do you think is the best team in this tournament?
I'd have to go Japan. I don't think I've seen any kinda bumps in their road. Dominican Republic would probably be a good second. I think that they've been dominant as well, but every night, it's always something Japan's just doing absolutely nuts. I think they scored 9 in an inning, the other day. It's just insane, so, yeah, they're my team to beat at this point in the Classic.
Yeah, Japan has looked fantastic, and obviously the former champions of this tournament, as they won in
Mhm.
2023. So they're looking really good. But for me, I just love what I'm seeing from the Dominican Republic team right now. They are playing unbelievable. That lineup, just from top to bottom, is absurd. I mean, I do think that it's probably a better lineup than Team USA's lineup as far as offense. I do think USA has better pitching, but that DR offense is just absurd. I was watching their game the other day when it was in the afternoon, and when Tatis hit that grand slam, I was just like, boy, this is a real threat to win this tournament. But I do think that Japan, should still be the favorites as they won And like you said, they haven't hit any bumps in the road. But for me personally, I'm just really liking what I'm seeing from that Dominican Republic team right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. And right now, who is your sleeper team in this tournament?
I kind of have two, and they both play each other today, and that's Italy and Mexico, because either one can make it in. They both looked. I've only seen Italy play really in one game, and that was the game against USA, and they looked good. Granted, it wasn't the best lineup out there, the best pitching for USA, but they took advantage of what they were given. Mexico, we saw them do well against, I believe it was Brazil. They hit the I think they put Mercy ruled them, so
Yeah,
you
16
you could
nothing.
see yeah, you can see they play good ball, and I'm really interested to see if they make it in, what they could do against a team like, Dominican Republic or, like, Japan or something like that. Um, Obviously, I'd like to see USA make it in and, make a splash, but our USA's fate relies in the hands of Italy and Mexico, and I think those are my 2 sleeper teams at this point.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I agree. I think Italy has been, pretty impressive, more impressive than we were expecting. And Mexico is always, I feel like Mexico's always kind of in that sleeper
Mhm,
category. I know they were in the last tournament. They got some guys on that team that are really, talented and they find ways to win games at times. So I like those picks. For my sleeper team, I'm going with Venezuela. I think that they're a very talented
mhm.
team. Ronald Acuna and Luis Ariz and Jackson Churio, they're looking really good right now. So that's a team that I can see making some noise in the quarterfinal rounds. I don't think they've lost a game yet, if I'm not mistaken, but very talented team that I could see making some noise um, soon in this tournament. So yeah, that's my sleeper team. Um, Mason, now we're going to talk about a player that has caught your surprise in this tournament so far.
I think I'm gonna go I have 2 that hit my mind. Actually, really 3, 2 from USA and 1 from Dominican Republic. I'll go Dominican Republic first, and that's Junior Caminero. At one point in the Classic, he was batting over 800. Obviously, he has that power behind him as well. We saw that huge hit. I can't remember exactly who it was against, but, or the huge bomb, and he's
Hmm.
just been as I wouldn't even say as advertised. I feel like he kinda took this tournament by storm, and he's really been running with it. I really liked watching him last season in Tampa, and I'm excited for what he can do this season as well. But for him to be able to do this for his nation and at this kinda stage, I think is great. My other 2 are, Bobby Witt and Gunnar Henderson. They've both been absolutely balling. We kinda mentioned this last night. You can't leave one of them on the bench if we are able to advance. Terang, I'm sorry, you gotta sit out. I just really haven't seen as much production as these two have been having. I'm sure you can put Gunner at second base and then have Bobby Witt in his natural position as shortstop. They've both been too valuable, not only on offense but on defense as well. We saw Witt the other night. Just I think it was against Mexico, making absolutely insane plays defensively, and Gunnar Henderson's been balling on the offensive side of the diamond as well. So it's going to be interesting. I really hope again we can advance, but those are my, I guess, 3 players that I've been watching.
Yeah, I like what you said there. I think that if USA finds a way to advance, I think um, there's a couple roster things that they need to do from here on out, and that's like you said,
Mhm.
make sure Gunnar Henderson starts at second base, and I think that PCA should be starting in center field as long as it's not a left-handed pitcher. If it's a left-handed pitcher, I do think Buxton should get the start, but after that 2 home run performance, you can see how fired up Pete is to play in this tournament. So I think those are a couple of moves that you got to make moving forward here. As far as my player that's caught me by surprise, I also picked Junior Caminero for this one because he's 4 for 7 right now with 2 bombs. He's just looked absolutely incredible. And like you said, for the Rays last year as a rookie, he put together such a great season, but it kind of went unnoticed because of how good Nick Kurt's rookie season
Mhm.
was. So I think that Junior Caminero is going to put a lot of people on in this WBC and in this regular season that we have coming up in baseball. So that's also the player I picked for who caught me by surprise.
Real quick, how how disappointed would you say you are right now with Team USA's pitching? I
Mm.
guess not maybe just pitching, but just the all-around performance because you see how many points they're allowing in just the games that they've been playing, and how many runners they've left on base. You need to score with guys on in running in scoring position. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that it is very disappointing to see what's happened. This is a team that was built to dominate in this tournament, and the fact that we were in pool play and our fate relies on Mexico and Italy tonight. That's just that's not a good look at all. I mean, this is
Mm-mm.
reminding me of when the Dominican Republic didn't make it out in 23, and obviously we see how personal they took that with how fired up they are in this tournament. Um, yeah, it's a huge disappointment to see pitchers giving up a lot of runs. It's a huge disappointment to see runners left on base not capitalizing in the moment. Um, because another factor to get out of pool play is run differential, and if we score a lot more runs, um, we might not even be in this situation right now, but we are, and we're gonna have to wait and see what Mexico and Italy do. But like, if USA does not make it through pool play, this is something that's going to be talked about for a long time until the
The
next
next 30
WBC at
years
least.
at least.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't know, maybe if you're Tariq Skubal, you might be wanting to pitch more than one game right now. That's just me personally.
I think he was kind of regretting his decision as soon as he left.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we'll see what happens, but I really hope for USA's sake that they make it through because that's not going to be a good look.
No.
All right. We're going to go ahead and slide over to NFL now because free agency has begun, but we're going to start with a lack of a trade. Obviously, we saw earlier in the week that big news, that big storyline of Max Crosby getting traded to the Baltimore Ravens, but then news broke last night that the Ravens pulled out after a failed physical. Mason, what are your thoughts on this situation? Have you ever seen anything like this before?
I personally have not. I did some digging and kind of some research on one of the last time something like this kind of happened, and it was actually with the Baltimore Ravens in '04 with Terrell Owens. So the Ravens, this is nothing new to them. They, I guess, have obviously done this before, but with a guy like Max Crosby, someone who was going to come in and completely change the defense, they were talking about him potentially being like the next Terrell Suggs of kind of how he managed that defensive, I guess, side of the ball. Um, but now he's obviously back with the Raiders, and my biggest concern now is what the Raiders, I guess, cap space and what their moves are going to look like because they signed a lot of guys, and I'm going to mention that in a little bit, with the money that they did not think that they would have to give Max Crosby for at least this season. And, they kind of get their picks back. So if they can make everything work, I think that they are in one of the best positions in the offseason. But it's going to be very interesting to see kind of how that happens because some moves may get rescinded. They might not be able to afford some of these guys. But for Baltimore, I feel for you guys. It's a horrible look. You've already lost so many guys, and now you just lost another one in what you were supposed to be gaining. So, yeah, it's definitely interesting. Haven't seen something like this happen in my lifetime, at least. So, I can't wait to see how it unfolds even more, I guess.
Yeah, I've only seen this happen in like other sports. Like I remember when it was
Mhm.
the Dalton Connect for was it Nick Richards trade that happened a year ago or two in the NBA where the center failed. I think it was either Mark Williams or Nick Richards. I can't remember which one between the two of them, but it was for Dalton Connect as well. And one of them failed a physical, and that trade didn't go through. And then I remember, I think it was like Carlos Correa going to the Giants or something, and he failed his physical. I think that was a few years ago. So I've only seen it a couple times. It's a very rare thing to have happen. So it's kind of crazy when that news broke. Especially when you saw him post him like in Baltimore and like how excited
Mhm.
he was to start playing for them. It seemed like, but Ravens did sign Trey Hendrickson this morning, so that's a good backup plan to have. Um, as far as the Raiders situation, I think they're probably still going to try to move Crosby. I could see him going
Mhm.
to the Dallas Cowboys, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, we'll see what happens with that situation. A very unique storyline that broke last night.
Yeah.
All right. Now I'm just going to go over some of the notable free agent moves. I'm not going to go over every single little one, just kind of, some of the more bigger headlines. We'll start with Alec Pierce to the Colts, and then Mike Evans went to San Francisco, Kenneth Walker to Kansas City, Isaiah Likely to the New York Giants, Geno Smith to the New York Jets, Tua to Atlanta, Malik Willis to Miami, Travis Etienne to New Orleans, Romeo Dobbs to the Patriots, Isaiah Pacheco to the Lions, Rico Dowdle to Pittsburgh, and Michael Pittman to Pittsburgh as well. And then obviously Hendrickson to the Ravens this morning. If I missed any, feel free to shout them out.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, there's just been so much going on to where I can't,
Yeah.
think of them all.
All right. And then now to be able to kind of talk about those moves more, I've set up some talking points for us. What was the best move, in your opinion, by a team so far?
I think that this has really gone under the rug. I'll kind of put this with one of the most underrated moves, and I'd have to go with Jalen Phillips and Devin Lloyd to the Panthers. I think that those two positions have absolutely been in need for the Carolina Panthers. We saw kind of how that playoff game went with the Rams. They addressed it in the offseason. They have a good young core offensively as well. So if they're able to kind of get all the pieces connected and get this going, all with mesh and everything, I think it could be very good for the Carolina Panthers, and I'm excited to see what they can do for the season.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good pick. I love Pittman and Dowdle to Pittsburgh. I think those are two great signings by the Steelers. Those are two positions that they could use some work in. So I think those are great pickups. But I'd say probably the best move is Kenneth Walker to the Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs have not had like a very talented running back in a while, I feel like. And for them to go out and get the best one on the market and Kenneth Walker after fresh off Super Bowl MVP, that's a pretty great move by them. So that's going to be my best move.
Hmm. Yeah.
All right. And who has been the best team, in your opinion, this offseason?
I think the Raiders have absolutely. I have a few. I think the Raiders have built a very good, I guess, base for Mendoza to come in and really do what he has to do. I don't know if they're going to sign a guy for him to sit a little bit. You have the first overall. I don't think you should. Um, you get Linderbaum, someone who was absolutely amazing with the Ravens. You sign him for 29 million a year, one of the best centers and the best center in the league. Um, and then I'll go Titans. Titans have really had a resurgence of players, at least with Sala and Dable at the helm. They pretty much stole everyone from the Jets and the Giants, so that's funny to see. They kind of picked and chose whoever they wanted. And then the Panthers, as I mentioned, have had a pretty good pickup, had pretty good pickup. So yeah, I think those three teams that definitely needed help, got help, and yeah, those are my best teams.
Yeah, I like it. For my best team, I also picked the Raiders. I think that they've had pretty good offseason so far. Tyler Linderbaum, Quay Walker, Jalen Naylor, and re-signing
Mhm.
Eric Stokes. Those are all, some of their notable moves. And I think, like you said, they're doing a great job of starting to build around Mendoza. It kind of reminds me of when the Bears got Caleb Williams and immediately started building a roster that would, be suitable
Mhm.
for around him. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out for the Raiders. I think they're doing a good job with that. So that's also my best team.
Yeah.
All right. And now we'll go to the opposite end. What is the worst team so far in the offseason?
I mentioned it earlier. I think the Ravens are definitely contending for one of the worst teams in free agency. Not only do you let everyone pretty much leave in hopes that you get Max Crosby, but then you ultimately give up Max Crosby off of concern of a physical. So I think I think in a similar situation, the Seahawks have been having a pretty bad free agency. They've lost a lot of key guys that helped them win that Super Bowl last year,
Hmm.
including I think the person who carried them throughout the playoffs. That's Kenneth Walker. So you lose him. I mean, you get Rashid Shaheed back, which is great, but you lose Tariq Woolen to the Eagles, who I think is one of the most underappreciated DBs in the league. And yeah, just guys left and right kind of leaving, going to other places, and it could really affect them in the upcoming season. So, yeah, I think it'll be interesting. And then the Patriots really only signed one big name, and that was Romeo Dobbs. They had their eyes on guys like Alec Pierce, AJ Brown, big hitters. But you know how Boston fans are. If they don't get the big names, they're going to be upset. So that's that's another L team, I think.
Yeah, I went with the Ravens as well as one of my losers for the same exact reasons you stated. I went with the Seahawks also because, coming off a
Hmm.
Super Bowl win, you kind of, I feel like, expect to at least retain a lot of your players, but they ended up losing a lot of them. So I think they got work to do now. And then I also went with the Denver Broncos. I think that I haven't really
Hmm.
seen them do anything, I think, this offseason. And this is a team that, can really be competing in this AFC. So I feel like they need to kind of strengthen their roster up a little bit because at the end of the day, the reason they didn't make it to the Super Bowl was from a few injuries and stuff and being a banged up team with not a lot of depth. So I feel like they need to go get some guys. So those are my losers.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
All right. We'll see what happens for the remainder of free agency throughout the NFL. And we'll go ahead and slide over to the NBA and we'll just do our player and team of the week. So, Mason, who is your player for this week?
My player of the week is Anthony Edwards. His last 5 games, he's been averaging 29.8 points per game. And he's been absolutely balling. They have a pretty good seeding right now, I believe. What are they? The fourth seed.
Yeah, tied for
Um,
third.
okay, so yeah, they're in a good position. So, um, yeah. Oh yeah. Wow, that's a tight race.
Mhm.
So, yeah, he's my player of the week.
Yeah, I like it. For my player of the week, I'm keeping the Miami Heat bandwagon rolling, and I'm picking Tyler Hero, who won Eastern Conference Player of the Week last week. 26, 5-5, led the Heat to a 4-0 record. Heat are now on a 6-game win streak. Ever since Hero's come back from injury, he's been showing once again that he's an all-star caliber player. Um, I feel like Hero is just I feel like Hero came into the league, became overrated, and then became severely underrated over the last season or two because he goes in every night and he scores an efficient 20 points, 20 to 27 points, 20 to 30 points, and does it in like I said, in an efficient way. Obviously, he's not the
Hmm.
best on the defensive side of the ball, but so neither are a lot of premier scorers in this league. So I just wanted to shout out Tyler Hero, who hasn't played a lot this year, but since coming back has made his presence been felt. So yeah, Tyler Hero, player of the week.
Nice.
All right, now we'll go ahead and slide over to team of the week. Who's your team for this week?
I know I pick them every week, but they're 16-1 in the last 17, and that's the Spurs. I think that's insane. I like out of all the weeks that I picked them, I think this is the most reasonable week to pick them. And then I
Mhm.
also picked the Thunder, who are 9-1 in the last 10, so they're both 1-2 in the Western Conference. So yeah, that would be a cool Western Conference Finals. I would be cool seeing 7 games of that.
Yeah, I mean, well, we got a little taste of it earlier in the season when they kept
We
playing
did
against each other, how
4-1.
fun those games were. So definitely would love
Yeah.
to see that. Um, For my team of the week, I actually did go with the Timberwolves, who are, like we talked about, 8-2 in their last 10 and are now tied for third place in the West and in this very tight race. And I think they're a very talented team that can make some noise in the Western Conference. So I think that they're a team that deserves to be shouted out and just be on the lookout for them because Anthony Edwards is really starting to heat up here. Julius Randle has had a solid season. Um, Jalen McDaniels has been good lately, so we'll see what the Timberwolves can do as we kind of hit the final stretch of this season.
Yeah, I have one more team too, and that is the Atlanta Hawks, who are 8-2 in the last 10. They are on a 7 game win streak. They're currently in the ninth seed right now, so just I think at that that's the plan. Top 10 is
Yes.
playing.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so that they're right there with Miami and Toronto again for the plan. So um, yeah,
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. We'll go ahead now and slide over to our final segment of the day, and that is the UFC. Obviously, we saw Holloway versus Oliveira last weekend. Mason, what were your thoughts on this fight?
I think it's funny that we're talking about it because I mean, there's really not much to say.
No.
Um, I think I think we kind of had a higher expectation of what was going to happen just because of the title of BMF, and then you see the two tendencies of how these fighters are and the size advantage of how these of how Charles is. He was able to get Max down, and that was it. He did that 5 straight rounds, one off of it, and yeah, I saw DC say something. Is this really how we want to see a BMF kind of go? Which I agree
Mhm.
with. You want to see something like Gaethje and Holloway. Islam Holloway. Really, Holloway is the BMF guy in my opinion. And then Charles is just probably gonna grapple his way and submit and take down his way to holding on to it. So yeah,
Yeah, I agree 100%. Also, I gotta say that whole card was probably one of the worst cards I've ever seen in UFC history. That was
yeah.
extremely boring. We were watching it together. Thank goodness the USA game was on to give us something to watch on the
Oh, I
side
know.
because that was a brutal watch for that UFC card. Yeah, the main event was a big letdown. I was expecting more, like you said, to see. It kind of reminded me of Marab versus O'Malley's fight in the Sphere, where like everyone was super
Hmm.
excited and it was just grappling for like 5 straight rounds. And you know, I get that that's a way to win. And even though O'Malley and Marab one's different because that's fighting for an actual championship belt.
Yeah,
This is the
yeah.
BMF. Like this is supposed to be the baddest dudes in the UFC going at it, going like toe to toe, and it just didn't feel like that at all. Like it didn't feel like a BMF fight, like you said. So, um, yeah, that's kind of all I got to say about it. I just wanted to talk about it real quick because um,
Mhm.
I thought it was a letdown for sure.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's pretty much going to wrap up this episode. So, thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode of GM Sports Report, where every play counts. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to be able to see our weekly episodes on all things sports. For additional content, check the description, see links to our Instagram and TikTok account. This is Grant and Mason signing off for now. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you, guys.